To the U.S. now, where President Donald Trump says the United States has fallen behind in its weapons capacity and wants to make sure the country's nuclear arsenal is at the top of the pack. In an interview with Reuters, Trump said he would like to see a world without nuclear weapons, but was still concerned other countries were out-arming the United States. Well, campaigners for arms control said the president should be careful not to spark up a proliferation in nuclear weapons.
It would be wonderful. A dream would be that no country would have nukes. But if countries are going to have nukes, we're going to be at the top of the pack.
Meanwhile, the president's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, has warned that the White House's battle with the media will only intensify as the new administration continues to push its agenda. He was speaking at the Conservative Political Action Conference. Bannon, who rarely makes public remarks, said that Trump would deliver on what he had promised when he campaigned to become president.
Here's why it's going to get worse, because he's going to continue to press his agenda. And as economic conditions get better, as more jobs get better, they're going to continue to fight. If you think they're going to give you your country back without a fight, you are sadly mistaken. Every day it is going to be a fight. And that is what I'm proudest about Donald Trump. All the opportunities he had to waver off this, all the people have come to him and said, oh, you got to moderate. Every day in the Oval Office, he tells Reince and I committed this to the American people. I promised this when I ran, and I'm going to deliver on this.
Lorna Shaddick has more from New York on Trump's stance on nuclear weapons.
Well, his message seems to be that although he, like many other people, would like to see a world without any nuclear weapons, if they're going to exist, then the US should have more of them than any other country in the world. And it's interesting to note the Ploughshares Fund, which is an anti-nuclear group, says that according to its research, the US at the moment currently has 6,970 nuclear warheads, whereas Russia has 7,300, so more than the US. So it's possibly knowledge like that has led to Mr. Trump's words in that interview. But at the moment, of course, both the US and Russia are bound by a treaty that was signed under the Obama administration, which limits them limits their arsenals to equal levels. They have to get to equal levels by next February and keep them at that level for 10 years. Now, it doesn't sound like Mr. Trump is willing to be bound by those conditions. He talked about the START treaty during the election campaign and called it a bad deal. He also talked about wanting to make a good deal with President Putin of Russia. We don't know yet whether a meeting between those two is on the agenda, but certainly it seems that for Mr. Trump, he's not concerned about any kind of an arms race. He's just most concerned that the US has more nuclear weapons than any of its rivals.
Let's move on to Steve Bannon, who was speaking at this Conservative Political Action Conference. Quite aggressive remarks by him, and he doesn't often speak. How did his speech go down?
Indeed, he is not normally one for the limelight, and indeed he's quite famously shunned too much publicity over the last few weeks and months. But he appeared on stage at the CPAC conference just outside Washington with Reince Priebus, Mr. Trump's chief of staff. And I think that was very deliberately done to try and quash the rumours that have been swirling around Washington that the two of them do not get on. They joked quite a lot between themselves. They said they had a close working relationship. They spent quite a lot of their time on stage praising one another. But I think another big idea behind this appearance was to try and reassure those present that the Trump administration is going according to plan. And there was a big tirade from Steve Bannon, as we've come to expect really from him, against the media. He called them the corporatist global media, which he said was dead wrong about what the Trump administration is doing, and urged those present not to take any notice of them. And they are still pretty wary because until not too long ago, Mr. Bannon himself was pretty much banished from CPAC. He actually set up a rival conference in a hotel down the road because he wasn't allowed to go to CPAC. And Mr. Trump himself almost didn't get a speaking slot there because they were too concerned that he would be just using it to promote himself. So the people in this audience are still pretty new potentially to the Trump phenomenon, some of them. And Mr. Bannon was doing a persuasive job as far as he was concerned anyway, of getting them on side and behind the Trump agenda.